Hi and welcome to the Dev Corner. I'm going to start things off here by talking about my website. I've been coding websites as a career for something like 15 years at this point, but most of that is kind of the same thing over and over again, especially when it comes to the coding. You get different sort of looks and feels in the design, but the back end is all very much the same kind of thing again and again. There are databases of pages and customers, and there are content management systems, and at this point that's all fairly repetitive. But when it comes to my own website, I've always tried to use that as an opportunity to try new and slightly different approaches. But the problem with that is when coding is your career and you run your own business doing that, it's kind of hard to justify spending time on your own projects when you could be doing other stuff that you're getting paid for. And so that is why my own personal website hasn't really had a major update since 2003. So while there have been some minor content updates, my website has looked the same for quite a long time at this point, and I was kind of used to it. And so when it came time to think about a redesign, I really wasn't sure where to go with it exactly. Mostly I knew I wanted to reorganize the categories a bit and make it a bit more consistent. But when it comes to the sort of arty design side of things, it took a while to come up with anything I was happy with. I've always been more of a back-end engineering type of coder. When it comes to the front-end arty design kind of things, that's always my weakest area. In the end, I didn't really find anything I was happy with until I kind of embraced the datedness of my ideas and went to the original 16 colour DOS palette that so many of my old games use. Updated so it basically works properly on a tablet or a mobile screen, things which didn't exist when the 2003 version was written. To give you an idea of how things have changed since then, the special thing I did for the 2003 version was that it's got a special style sheet that makes it format properly when you try and print it, which just seems so silly now. No one prints web pages. I don't think anyone even did back then, really. So back to the new version. I don't remember where the thought originally came from, but I started thinking about digital archaeology and how people will view files and things with in say 100 years or 1,000 years. My website is the archive of everything I've ever contributed to the internet, and so I kind of wanted to make sure it was always viewable in the future. So behind the scenes I decided to use a file structure and folders that still made sense without a web browser. So everything is stored in logical folders that give the file context, and you could then open that file and read the content with very little problem. The code on top of that then builds the website based on that logically organized content. And that's all based off flat files in the file system and no complicated databases or anything to worry about. So if someone tries to read those files in 1,000 years' time, they don't have to worry about spinning up an old instance of MySQL in order to get the thing running. The data is there and readable with little else other than a text reader and something that'll process images. But of course, even though I'm happy with it now, in 5 or 10 years' time I'm probably going to end up redesigning and reorganizing it all again to meet with whatever the current standards are at that time. But it just started me thinking about internet legacies. As I said, my website is the archive of basically everything I've ever put on the internet, and I would kind of like that to outlive me and sort of be there as a thing for forever. But whether I live to be 100 or get hit by a bus tomorrow, hosting a website costs money. No matter how cheap hosting you get and how much money you put in a trust for that, at some point that is going to run out. And even though people say things are on the internet forever, at that point my website would disappear. There would of course likely be copies on things like the Wayback Machine, but they're not as ideal, and they're never a 100% copy. Although the fact that I have designed my website to be as simple as possible when it comes to the back-end technology, it would probably be archived quite well. So yeah, I don't quite know what the answer to that is, but it's something I've been thinking about recently. At this point the web is still fairly new and most of the first generation of web users are still alive, but as time goes on that's going to become more and more of an issue as website owners die and sites simply disappear. Seems like we ought to start planning more about preserving these things as a digital history. Because at the moment there's only really the Internet Archive that's doing that, and that's kind of an all your eggs in one basket kind of situation. So yeah, that is a topic that I will think on some more and probably revisit in the future. In the meantime, please have a look at my new website and enjoy, link down in the doobly-doo, and if you have any comments, leave those down there too. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.